religion or their product. My usual response is, I didn't ask you to call on me. Go away. And that's it. And just try to stonewall them. I've got more time than they have anyway. We have time to stand and stare and chatter about nothing. So there we go. And yeah, so statistics, lies and statistics. It's not really statistics at all, is it? It's just rubbish in, rubbish out. Same thing with your headphones, Dave. You've got to start off with a proper input signal, so you're back to square one. And it doesn't matter how good your loudspeakers are, you should spend your money on your turntable. M0SPZ MW0GYV.
Yeah, well, of course it goes back further than that, Peter. MW0GYV, G0GSR, M0SPZ returning. You've got to start with the mains plug. or the substation at the end of the road. Maybe that's something else that Russ Abbott can get into. Substation conditioners. Oh, I saw something else. A cable something that that holds the cable off the floor. What were they called? Cable supports or something. Your loudspeaker cables must not be on the floor. They must be spaced out, a bit like sort of open wire feeder in a professional across the living room on these cable supports. And then I thought, oh dear, I just hadn't realised how crazy it had got. I can remember when I first had when I first set up my stereo, there was quite a lot of discussion about speaker leads. Now I can understand that, if you're going to use some very, very fine, nasty wire for speaker leads, or some, really thick stranded copper, I can understand why the thicker cable would be preferable, but and that was about as far as it went. But these days it's got completely out of hand, and the Sennheiser £40,000 headphones is the sort of pinnacle of stupidity as far as I'm concerned. Now I'm sure that they sound very, very good, and I could be amused for at least half an hour watching these valves rise up and down out of the amplifier, but it is so disappointing that even what was considered, in my opinion, to be a very, very good company has pandered to this sort of nonsense. It really is very, very worrying indeed. And with regards to Star Trek, right, absolutely, yeah, the old ones really do look quite silly now. But I can remember when they came on, it was absolutely compulsive viewing. There was nothing like it on. I mean, I think there was Doctor Who at the time, early Doctor Who, where people were walking around in sort of sacks with the monster faces and things, and it was obviously really, really childish baby stuff. And then there was Star Trek, and one or two of the things in Star Trek started to, it was altogether more technical. I know they still had monsters and people dressed up in suits, but it was done a lot better, and it was compulsive viewing. And then the second generation one came on with Jean-Luc Picard, and Patrick Stewart played him, and that was even better technically. And they started including the sort of latest thinking in terms of sort of modern day cosmology and things. So there was one or two things in the second generation series that were, half possible. And of course some of the things in Star Trek are they've actually done, haven't they? So tricorders and things like that, they reckon that they're really relatively easy to make. So Star Trek, yeah, I'm a great Trekkie really, but after the second generation I sort of lost interest. What was that, Deep Space Nine didn't cut it with me, and the Star Trek Voyager series didn't cut it with me either. So second generation was probably the peak for me. G0GSR, M0SPZ in the group.
G0GSR, yeah, okay, Dave. Yeah, I agree with the Star Trek. This first series, although it was enthralling at the time, I must have been about, I don't know, 16 at the time it was on, and it was extremely good. Like you say, compared with Doctor Who, it was a different world, wasn't it? I always thought the best one I saw was the one where this intelligent autonomous device had morphed what was an Earth satellite, and it turned out to be one of the Voyager probes. So they did base the thing on real science. And this old Voyager probe, which of course two of them are still in existence now, had been captured by an intelligent race and upgraded and sent it back to find its maker. And then that was its prime directive. Then it would go back in through space to find who made it. And of course the Enterprise found it, and they could see on the side of it was the Voyager writing. So I thought that was quite good anyway. But what was I going to talk about? I just imagine when Dave was talking about the sign on his door, I could just imagine what that might look like. You know, go away, everybody go away, don't bother me. But we get the usual kind of stuff, people knocking on the door, and I don't give them very much time, I must admit. I've got a frustrating note on my pad here, and I can't read what it says, so that's really annoying. Oh, it's something to do with loudspeaker cable tests, I think. I remember seeing Wireless World, a very respectable technical magazine, did some independent loudspeaker tests some years ago. And they concluded that the best sounding, in quotes, loudspeaker cable was just the Twin and Earth mains cable. You know, 2.5mm mains cable with plenty of copper in it. And they couldn't really do any better than that, even with all these multiple strand fake coil cables, 8-ohm balanced feeders, which is ridiculous. They came down here for a mains cable, which of course is just one outlet. It's got plenty of copper and it's low resistance, and that's really all that you need for a loudspeaker cable. MW0GYV in the group, G0GSR.
Well, you preempted me, because I just figured out 100 watts into 5 ohms, 20 amps. They just need cables to carry 20 amps. Of course, I got the big stick cables. They look nice, and then, you know, and they're equal length. I wonder if it makes any difference, really. But I've also got the speakers. You've got the 4 terminals on the back, 2 for the bass and for the woofers, and 2 for the high frequency unit. And they do, even the speaker manufacturer recommend you take the cables back to the amplifier. But, you know, who has 2 sets of amplifiers, and one for the low and one for the high? So even though I've got 4 outputs on my amplifier, 2 for each side of the stereo amp, they're actually connected to the same kind of circuit board inside through the relays. Or perhaps I should get some super relays and some super fuses in there. But I did try having 4 cables to the speaker instead of 2 to each. And it makes no damn difference, so I believe my ears. And I've got the little bent connectors between the 2 because they're gold plated. Look very nice. So there we go. Do you want me out? My wife's just come up. I wish you were going to make coffee in about 10 minutes. That sounds good, doesn't it? I got a choice of nice scones, or there's a last mince pie to eat. Not the last mince pie from Christmas. She tends to buy loads of mincemeat after Christmas, and we end up having mincemeat slice and mincemeat pies all the time. So that's quite nice. And talking about myths and truth, I mean, because, you know what, as you are, Dave, I'm using, and I believe, Frank, we're all using doublet antennas. And I'm using my MFJ tuner, which is a T-match. And of course, that's wrong. It can't possibly be any good because it's not a balanced antenna tuner, blah, 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 blah. And I think that's just, you know, not true. I mean, it's just an antenna matching unit, surely. And I noticed my needle's about something down quite nicely, at least the one that should be is, and the other one isn't, so that must mean it's okay. And I tried a balanced antenna tuner, didn't like it, so I came back to this one. But I'm often remonstrated with by, you know, the purists. I don't believe it makes any difference, and ultimately, your signal isn't balanced because it starts from, well, I suppose I've got a balanced, my microphone is the balanced output, the way it's wired up, except one side's connected to Earth. And then, of course, the set isn't balanced either, and it certainly isn't balanced on the output because it's the usual, well, it's got T match in the transmitter, but before that it's a bit of a pi match, which is what was used in the WLW. Ansted prior, getting back to 1933. So they had a pi matching unit, or a pi matching network, feeding the... they had a very nice coax cable feeding the antenna, which is a huge diameter. Would make a nice loop for you, Dave. M0SBZ, MW0GYV.
MW0GYV with G0GFR. 0SBZ returning. Okay, well, the doublets and balanced tuners and things. I mean, in theory, the balanced tuner is probably the best solution. But the difference between a balanced tuner and one with a balance in terms of output is probably only just measurable. So it's not necessary, is it? I mean, if it's a dB down, then you just turn the power up a little bit more. So I'm very happy with my big tuner, by the way, the AT5K. I mean, it really is a monster of a thing, but it's just a nice thing to operate. The controls are like, I've often said, like stirring treacle. They are really super smooth, and they're all differential sort of, what do you call it, multi-turn type gear reduction. I'm very, very pleased with it. Now, I could probably do with one that is a tenth of the price and probably not notice any difference in performance, but it wouldn't be so nice to operate. But at least you haven't got valves that rise out from beneath like the mighty Whirlster. As regards to those, the Voyager spacecraft, Frank, another example of getting it right first time. I believe that the two that are still going, I think they're still transmitting, and they're now outside the solar system, aren't they? So they're one hell of a long way away, and I believe that they're still transmitting. So, when they were built, they didn't have super sophisticated electronics. It was all BC108. In fact, it may have even been before BC108, the thing. So they got it right, and they got it right first time. So all power to them. Right. So I think we're coming up to the thing now when the 635 want their frequency in quotes. So I'll put it once more around, and then Peter's got a cup of coffee already brewing up. I guess you're going to have to make your own coffee this morning, unless your good lady might make you some. And I shall have to make some. It only takes me about 30 seconds to make a cup of coffee, whereas you guys that drink proper coffee from a proper cup of coffee pot takes a little longer. G0GSR in the group, M0SBZ.
Yes, I always have to make my own coffee. Usually end up making two, but that's fair enough, isn't it? Right, going back to doublets and things, and what Peter said and what Dave has said, yeah, you're both right, of course, there isn't a great deal of difference. If you could have a perfectly balanced doublet antenna, in other words, each end of it was completely symmetrical, the same distance away from any surrounding objects, and obviously the same height above ground. And if you were then to put that antenna into a proper balanced antenna tuner, then you would probably have a slight benefit in regard to the local noise pickup. But having said that, whose doublet antenna is perfectly symmetrical with the relation to surrounding objects and the ground? Probably none of them. So the slight advantage that could possibly be obtained theoretically, you cannot get that in practice. I do have a proper balanced tuner, but it was simply what was available on eBay at the time. So that's why I've got it. But this slight advantage, I don't think anybody could realise this in practice unless you have a very, very carefully designed antenna system, which most people don't have. The only comment I have about MFJ antenna tuners, I have one myself here, a very, very cheap one, and this is rubbish, is the size of the balun in it is not adequate. The size the far right core rhythm is far too small. I don't know which model you've got, Peter, but they just don't fit a big enough balun on core on these things, purely to save money. And that's a very critical part of the device, because they're very easy to saturate with high currents, which can exist on a mismatched feeder. Dave's is quite clever in that they put the balun on the 50 ohm side, but most of them, the balun is on the unmatched side, which is really a pretty bad thing to do, really. Okay, well, thanks for the contact, both of you. I think I'll go and make my properly christened, ground and brewed cup of coffee. We normally have a cappuccino, actually, at this time, so I'm quite looking forward to that now. So over to you, Peter, and thanks again for the contact. MW0GYV and the group G0GSR.
MW0GYV. Well, first of all, I'm not allowed proper coffee. I'm not supposed to. Couldn't my doc, so I hadn't drunk. I try not to drink that. So I'm down to the instant stuff, or the decaf stuff, but I still enjoy it. And most often we drink tea anyway, and I guess I make more cups of tea in a day than my wife does. So I start in the morning. When I get up, I make tea, and then we. She's just shouting for me. There we go. But that's that. My tune is a 962D, so it's the VersaTuner 3 to handle the power. And I don't use the built-in balun. So I built many years ago, 4 years now, 5 years. It's a PA0SE. It's supposed to be a matching transformer. It's made out of several turns of TV coax, 75 ohm coax, wound counterwise. I think it's 9 turns plus 9 turns wide up to be the right sort of ratio, on a piece of drain pipe, and it's about 4 or 5 inches diameter piece of drain pipe, and that sits outside, so that's on the 50 ohm side. And the built-in balun, I've used it as well. It does work, but that's the usual toroid bolted into the back of the case. I don't use that. If I switch the amplifier off and I turn the radio right up to 100 watts, which I've just done, and I can switch the tuner out, I think it'll still transmit, so I don't know what difference it makes. And I'll put the built-in antenna tuner on. That's a T-match tuner with no balance, so that's my balanced antenna going directly into the unbalanced. I've just lied, actually. It's still going through the PA0 SE, so I have to do it a different way. I can't switch that out. I just realised. I can on the KX3. But I've not noticed any real difference. The KX3 will tune anything from a drawing pin up to a proper dipole. So that one works pretty well without a balun. Anyway, nice chatting, chaps, and interesting again. And I'm off to put my order in for my special levitated main cables. M0SPZ, MW0GYV.
Yeah, Roger. What was the bit about counter wound? What difference does it make which way round you wind them, Roger?
Hang on, I just have to switch oops. There we are, no antenna tuner. Antenna tuner switched in. Right, it was just the way that it was drawn on the, there was pictures. Unfortunately, PA0SE is silent key now, so I couldn't ask the way it was wound. It was difficult to find pictures, but the pictures I found, the coils are certainly wound, one way and then the other way. It probably makes no difference whatsoever, but that's the way. It looks nice anyway.
Yeah, Roger. Sorry. I thought it was just one complete. When you said it was coax wound round a drain pipe, I just assumed that it was just one sort of continuous coil, Roger.
No, it's not. It's 2 coils, about 9 turns each. I'm just looking at. I'll lower down my microphone so I can speak into it down there, because it's on the bench underneath, next to the PA, and. I'm not going to touch it. I nearly touched it then. The coils, the wires are about 2 inches or so total width, the one winding. Then there's an inch gap. Then there's another 2 inches of coax wound around the drain pipe. It's about 6 inches, 8 inches tall. I don't use gold-plated ones, but I use standoffs. They're just the usual screw terminals. Perhaps I should use gold-plated ones to increase my efficiency. Back to you, Dave.
Yeah, Roger. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah. So one is wound in one direction, and then the other coil wound in the other direction. Roger.
That's it. And well, there's no physical connection between them, and they're, as I say, they're an inch apart. But the marvels of RF.
It's a 4-to-1.
I understand it now. Okay, guys, all the very best to both of you. We need to play, I think, all the best to the G0GSR and W0TYV and 0SBZ. Shelley Freestyle, bye.
I think it's a 4-to-1 balance, so that there will be 2 windings connected as a transformer. I think that's what the thing is, Dave. Okay, thanks for the contact, and cheers to you both from G0GSR.
Yeah, you're correct, Frank. It's 4-to-1 transformer, or air core transformer. There's no ferrite to saturate. And as a last comment, the original balun on the Ameritron amplifier, the input transformer, or the balun, was only 2-to-1. And I rewound it and made it 4-to-1, which I think it should. That's what the original design called for, but Ameritron in their wisdom changed it. And I wanted to drive it from with 10 watts to 400, so I had to change the input circuitry. That's maybe a story for another day. 73 guys, MW0GYV listening.
Yeah, okay, Peter. Yeah, maybe another day, like you say, though. But you're doing exactly the right thing with the air core balun, of course. Direct balance are not normally a good idea when there's high power, even though we used to use them at 500 kilowatts for amateur ones. Cheers for now, and cheers to the web SDR listeners from G0GSR.
The 7300. Yeah, so about the RT600, it's really quite strange. Friday, I was tuning, gave it a quick blip of RF, and what I do is normally I just use the 7300 in the AM position, which gives about 25 watts output. Just tune the RT600. I think probably have it backed off a bit, so it's about 10 or 15 watts. Got a nice SWR, then switched the amplifier in, and then began to run the power up, and suddenly I started to get an error. It tripped out a couple of times, so maybe the fail-safe on the 600S didn't work properly. It came out with a thing called a PAM error. It seemed to me I lost a lot of gain and only getting half the output, so maybe I just don't know. The only thing is, when I packed it up and in a bit of a hurry on Saturday morning, I did notice that the input connector from the radio was slightly loose on the amplifier, so I'm just hoping it's not, well, I hope it is a bit of finger trouble on mine, but I don't want to waste their time. But the power was going straight through the amplifier, all right, in the standby mode, so I'm hoping, well, I don't know what to think. I just wonder whether that might have affected it somehow or another, and didn't like it with the power coming from the input. Although everything seemed to go through all right, in standby. I don't know. It's what comes to being in too much of a hurry. But the RT600, I double-checked that, swapped the cables over, put a 50 ohm load on the input cable for the RT600, and it did show a slight intermittency, but it did actually recover. It appears that the through relay, it was tuning, but in the bypass mode, when you switch the power off the RT600 in the shack on the control box, it just wasn't passing the power, on the ZS6. It should have been sort of 1.5 to 1 or something like that. So it's, and also when I looked inside it, if I applied power to it, I couldn't see any. Whatever I did, I couldn't see that relay moving. So I've told them about that, and maybe it's something intermittent, and it'll come back, no fault found again. But anyway, it was an ideal time to take them both up there on Saturday, because the 600S has been making grunting noise, in transmit mode, even with quite low powers, a couple of 100 watts or so, over the last few weeks, or several weeks, that every now and then there's a click. I've looked inside, all the fans are running and everything, and it's not getting particularly hot. But as Steve said, sometimes the FETs or have a bit of bed in a bit better over several months, and so sometimes the heat sink screws need tightening up and what have you. Anyway, just checking on Hat Green again. I dropped down to S8 in a moment. S8, some big signals around on looking at Hat Green. Some big signals across 80 meters. Everybody was coming through quite well just now when at 9:30 when I first listened. Back to you, Vince. G3TKN, G3RCE.
Yeah, okay, Rob, from G3TKN. Yeah, my feeling is that, as I told you in the email, I think you'll probably find that one or both of your FETs has gone. And it may be... Is it 2 FETs that device is using?
Yes, there's 2 of these LD MOS. These are the modern FETs, and they're very, very robust, apparently.
Yeah. Well, if they haven't gone, then I think you've got to look at the combiner unit, because you've got a combiner unit with those. I just have a feeling that you're going to find that, anyway, see what happens, that one or both have gone, and it might be related to the combiner. That's my view for what it's worth. And as for the LDG, my other gut feeling about that is that they're not using sufficiently high-powered rating relays on that. You'll find that they're getting by with a cheaper sort of relay on them than they should be using. Because it's all down to cost. I mean, I wasn't impressed with that LDG 1000 Pro 2. I don't know, I just didn't like it at all, and it wouldn't even tune 160, whereas the internal tuner on the 7300 and the 7600 will easily tune 160. In fact, I've got my tuner set to auto now, so that when I'm whispers, all I've got to do is click on the software. It moves to band, and as soon as it transmits, the auto tuner activates automatically in the rig and just tunes it down to a 1-to-1 SWR, so I've just got instant band change on that. So I don't know, but I gather you told me, you did say, didn't you, that they said this is the first fault they've had on a 600, but you said didn't you say you've read something on the internet that's similar, good?
G3TKN, G3RCE. Well, our signals are really possibly the same on Hat Green. I've gone over the 9 now, and you've dropped back a bit. Wait a minute, what was the question, by the way?
The question was, oh God, this is terrible. What was the question? Yeah, I'm getting as bad as you, Rob. Do you know, this is embarrassing. I've forgotten what the question was. Hell, this is worrying, Rob, isn't it? The old Anno Domini is kicking into both of us. Go ahead.
From G3RCE, yes, I'm an S point down on you now. You've got probably a half to an S point overall reliability on Hat Green, which is, as you say, is due to all that wire up in the sky, and it's higher as well. Yes, that's quite good. Yes. Well, you're just a youngster compared with me. I'm an old real fart. Well, what I'm impressed about is the quality of the components from the RT600. I looked inside it on Friday. I was on a bit of a rush, really, because I spent too much time in the shack. Really, what with the 600S and the RT600, we were playing up, trying to find out what was going on. But I looked inside it, and I couldn't find any. When I was switching the supply on and off, things were clicking and what have you. But that bypass relay is quite a beefy thing. I would say there's nothing wrong with that. They did replace that in the first place when I took it up there, after I'd mistuned the thing because I didn't have a load on it because the wire had broken inside the. That was really my fault, I think. I'd spent it several times trying to do to get the ZS6PKW working, but of course the wire had broken off inside the ballon. The solder had come adrift. So I think basically what happened, after several goes, it's probably understandable that the bypass relay had failed. But when I looked at it on Friday, I looked inside there's no sign of burning, there's no sign of anything, and everything was clicking, everything looked really clean inside it. You can see inside the relay, but of course it wasn't operating. And going through the actual RT600 was tuning. It appeared to be tuning okay, but it wasn't going through in that important bypass mode. When you don't want to use the thing because the match is good on the ZS6PKW on 7 and 14 and what have you. I've got it though working much better now. It's quite satisfactory with 3 feet taken off the top, and I played around. I cut off 1 foot, then another foot off 300 ohm ribbon last night, and the optimum was with about a foot off it, so there's about 35 feet of 300 ohm ribbon on it now. But I have got 12 meters of 450 ohm ladder. I got that from Martin Lynch on Saturday to put up a new ZS6PKW when I moved the mast to the centre of the garden. So I probably won't bother for a while anyway now. It will be interesting to see what Steve's diagnosis of both the units. If the 600S if spare parts are needed for it, then apparently it has to go back to the factory. So I don't think it won't cost me anything. It has to be shipped back to Bulgaria and then shipped back once they've repaired it. If they do have it down there, they can update the BIOS, and there's a couple of updates. But it'll probably be about maybe 5 weeks or so. It doesn't matter very much. Because I'm operating on the JT modes, and I really only need about 50 to 100 watts of that for JT, and the Whisper obviously is only 5 watts. Anyway, I can't remember what I'll tell you what I've started to use now. I've gone over to JTDX. JTDX is like a subset, or it's like an updated version. It's based on WSJTX, but it's quite nice. It's got some improvements to the it means basically that if you're on JT65 at the moment, you put out a CQ, I sometimes have 2 or 3 people coming back to me. Well, now you can usually see all 3 of them. They all decode, even though they're all on top of each other. They've improved the decoding, but only on JT65. JT9 is apparently still the same, but JT9 has the advantage of only being a tenth of the width of JT65. So I'm using JTDX 1761, the latest one, or the next to the latest one. It's by a Russian, and is a development of Joe Taylor, Joe Taylor's WSJTX. So they're all working together, I think, and he's probably got permission to do it. Back to you, Vince. Just have a quick look at the screen a minute, and I'm reading about S7. Gone up to S8 on Jack on Hack Green. G3PKN, G3RCE.
Yeah, okay, Rob, from G3PKN. Yeah, I've just written a couple of points here. I meant to ask you before about, did you do a reset on the 600S? Because I know when this develops a fault, if something arcs or there's something on the antenna not right, this will go into fault mode and trip, and then to clear the trip, you've got to knock off the operate button and then put it back on again. I'm just wondering if there's anything like that on the 600S, any sort of reset procedure, Roger?
Well, I did have, to be honest, for the first time I looked at the handbook, I got it out, and I thought, I really should have had a look at this before, because I did come across some information on resetting it, and but I had so little time on the Friday. It was late in the afternoon. I didn't reset it. So maybe it's as simple as that. But I would think probably the PA it needs looking into. There was an EHAM review. If you have a look at the ACOM reviews about 2 or 3 back, there was a guy who had was getting these clicking noises, when it's in transmit, and I think he consulted with the factory. He carried on using it because he thought, well, it's basically working okay. Wait till it fails completely. But I don't think it did fail completely. I think he consulted with the factory and looked inside and tightened all the heat sinks on the FETs, and then the clicking noise, the grunting noise went away. Vince, over.
Oh, right, yeah. I haven't heard of that one before, but thinking about it, that's a bit disappointing if these ACOM solid state amps need new components, and they've got to be sent all the way back to Bulgaria again. This is, of course, one of the advantages, I guess, with that new one when it finally does come out, the Gemini, which, of course, is built in the UK. That's the 1 kilowatt linear. And the other one, the KPA 500, of course, you seem able to, most of the time, you can get in touch with Elecraft, and they're very helpful, and it can give you pointers which way to go to repair it yourself, as you can with a lot of Elecraft stuff. But that is putting me off a little bit now. I was interested in the ACOM 1200S. For the this is something for the far off future. I certainly can't afford one at the moment. But after all this, and knowing that if it goes wrong, it's got to be sent all the way back to Bulgaria, that's a bit of a bit disappointing, shall we say. What I would recommend you do, Rob, is sit down quietly with the manual and read it right through about the reset. Just see what it says. In fact, there was some procedure that you should have gone through, as with the ACOM 1000, where you have got to clear it with the operate button. If that is the case, you could always ring them up and just mention what you found out and ask if they've done that. But my money at the moment, and I hope I'm wrong, but my money at the moment is on those devices, the MOSFETs, I think, or LV MOS devices, and connected with a combiner unit. But anyway, we shall see. But I like to have a stab at things like that and just see if it's right or not. Okay, about the JTDX mode. That sounds interesting. I presume that will decode down to sort of -30 into the noise. And obviously without the amplifier, you can still run that nicely. On barefoot, you don't need that level of power. Oh, the other thing I was going to give you a warning about, my advice would be not to use the CG3000 with the ZS6 on 160 when it's in the dipole mode. You said that you could tune it on 160 as a dipole, with both feeders going into it. Now, with the disadvantage with that is that you'll be getting a very, very low impedance indeed, and that will result in high circulating RF currents inside the tuner, and that's where you can run into problems with very, very low impedances, which you'll get on 160. It's like trying to run a short dipole, basically. It should be okay if you strap the feeder, because that effectively is a T-Marconi. You've got lots of top loading on it, and it's probably resonant, getting on towards 160, if not actually on 160. But I would not advise you to run the CG3000 with the ZS6 on 160 with it looking as a dipole, because those high circulating currents, even at fairly low power levels, can certainly damage components in an auto ATU. I contacted that company that make the stock corner JC4, and when you read that, it's I don't know, it unsettles me actually, the sort of provisos they give. I mean, they quote 300 watts on CW and 1 kilowatt PEP on sideband, and the guy wanted to know, when I asked him straight out about power levels and impedance matching, and I actually gave him the resistive and reactive components that the ATU would see if it was placed at the bottom of the ladder line on the 5RV, or in fact on the base of a 50-foot vertical. I don't know, I didn't feel I got any straight answers. I'll send you a copy of what I got back, but I just feel that they're very wary of these things. They give ratings, but a lot of these ratings I think are only valid if the impedances fall within certain limits, and SWR is absolutely meaningless, because you don't know what the resistive component is or the reactive component with SWR. And when you're looking at an auto tuner or an ATU of any sort, you've got to know both resistive and reactance, and if you start to get some very high reactances in the impedance, you'll start to get some extremely high reactive voltages. And of course that can damage the capacitors, and I'm not convinced that a lot of these auto ATUs are really built to take it. They like to say it's 1 kilowatt rated, but only under certain conditions. You start to get some high reactive impedance, and you'll see those reactive voltages shoot up, or very low resistive, and you'll see huge amounts of circulating current flowing around. So, I've come to the conclusion that the best system, if you've got, say you've got a vertical and you want to use it on a number of bands, the best system is to have a number of dedicated matching units for each band and relay switch them. They're good quality relays, simple as that. I've told Chris that. And it's a damn sight cheaper too. I looked up the price, by the way, that German-made Hamware remote ATU, and it was something like, I think, over £1,800 or €1,800, which is still pretty expensive. And well, not only could I not afford it, but I wouldn't be prepared to pay that sort of money. And you can make up some simple switch matching units on relays, relay controlled, using nice big hefty components, and cost you a lot less, Rob. So that's my view of it all at the moment. G3RC, I wonder what our signals are doing on that green. G3TKN.
G3TKN, G3RC, signals are pretty identical at the moment when you switched over, but you did actually a bit earlier come up to 9+10, or perhaps a bit more than that. But they've dropped a bit at the moment. But anyway, it's just interesting. It just fascinates me looking at that SDR. It's very useful for checking signals and what have you, and doing comparisons and what have you. Yes, I'm just looking through my notes. Yes, okay about the stock corner. I think that's got quite a nice design. Yes, you're right about it was only just a quick check, because I had I wouldn't use it that way, because with the feeders, it's just a normal, like with a short top with the 300 ohm ribbon on the 160 meters. I possibly might use one leg, which would be either of the legs, which would be 35 plus 45, 35, 45, what's 35 and 45? 80?
Looks like it's not been long then, isn't it? 45 foot top, 45, 50, 80 foot. That's one leg, either leg by itself, or strap the feeders. I'll have to do a little bit of experimenting a little bit later on perhaps. But anyway, just looking through the notes here, okay about that German ATU, so I am quite impressed when I looked at it. I saw Mike's, looked pretty impressive, a big solid thing. Balanced output, I think. I'm just looking down. Yes, with the what I noticed about the 7300, some of my decoding is showing quite frequently -29. I do think the receiver on the 7300 is excellent, and it really, it's really good on the the digital modes. Very useful. The manual for the 600S, I did leave it within the box when I went up there. I possibly won't go and have a look at it online, but I'll probably get a call from Steve in the next day or so. He'll tell me, the bad news or the good news or whatever. The good thing about it is that if it is fixable or something obvious or something simple or something come adrift, with both of them, that presumably I might, I'm going up there again on Saturday for the final bit of instruction and for Margaret's intermediate examination. She's been working quite hard. She's got this exam secrets book on the intermediate, foundation and the advanced. It's quite expensive. I told her afterwards I could have got it for probably 2 or 3 quid off it, if she'd only told me, because being a member of the RSGB. But anyway, she did it straight away last week, and time was running out, I suppose. Anyway, just looking through the old notes, yes, you mentioned about the Gemini and the KPA 500. Yes, I think the KPA 500 would be very easy to fix. Aircraft are so good, their feedback and their instantaneous reply, at any time of the day, really, from Gary Serenzi. To 2 or 3 times I've had to ask him about things, instantaneous, little things, just an excellent company. The Gemini, of course, be a good when that comes out, because hopefully it's a British product, and it'll be easy to just nip over there and take it back to Bristol, just drive over. If one had something like that, and you had to take it back. I'm just looking at pushing the ALC a bit. I'll just speak a bit further away from the microphone. Anyway, Vince, back to you. G3, how are you feeling today? G3 TKN, G3 RCE.
Yeah, I'm having one of my better days today, Rob. I managed to get out of bed for 8 o'clock and get on the radio. But, no, I haven't felt that good off and on. I've been getting headaches. Anyway, I've got the next MRI coming up on the 8th of April to check things over. And I've got to go for another series of tests, which is connected with the tweaking the medication. So hopefully it will all be sorted out, but today is a good day. Yeah, I've just sent you 2 emails. I did a forward so you can read what is... I was going to say almost like double Dutch, because it is double Dutch. It's from a Dutch company. And I've just sent you a forward about that JC4, and you tell me how you interpret it. I'm a bit confused, actually. Anyway, so you can read because I raised a number of points about power handling, and I also sent you the reply I got from that German company, Hamwer. Yeah, I mean, I've no doubt that is a very solid ATU. I'm sure it's a good ATU. But the price at over 1,800 euros, it's a hell of a lot of money. And if you had say, a straight vertical and you wanted to use it on a number of bands, it is a far cheaper option to have a series of matching circuits that are relay switched, which you can easily build. I mean, I know people who've done it with designs in handbooks and goodness knows what. There was actually one I sent to Chris in one of the ARRL handbooks for a 45-foot vertical where he had relay switching on a base matching unit. Far more reliable and no worry about a tuner trying to tune and pushing too much power into it. This seems to be some of the issues, of course, with auto tuners, that you've got to be careful that you don't put too much power into them when they're tuning. And, of course, if you haven't got enough power, they won't tune. So there's all sorts of issues, I think. And you're quite right, with that Gemini amplifier, when that eventually comes out, being British-made, one would hope, of course, that if there's in the future any faults with it, that it can easily be sorted out. But I just don't like the idea when these things have got to be sent back. I thought that as ML were the agent for ACOM, that they would be able to repair them in-house. And that's a bit disappointing, a bit like what happened with John's 590, of course. That would have been sent back to Kenwood. I think he's taken the best option there, but just buying a standard external keyer with it. But when these things have got to be sent back to the manufacturer, this is where the whole thing starts to get expensive. And if that manufacturer is in Europe, then you could be in for a very long wait. So that is disappointing. And then you think, well, what happens if, I don't know whether it's a 1 year or 2 year warranty you've got with the ACOM, but what happens if the unit is out of warranty and you've got to pay, so you've got to pay all that expense to have it sent back to Bulgaria, plus the expense of servicing. And before you know where you are, you could end up with a bill of £500, £600, £700, who knows. So after talking to Mike, we were discussing in an email about the merits of amplifiers and so on. And Mike's got the ACOM 1000, and he felt for the moment, stick with what you know, stick with something that's very basic, very reliable, and at the end of the day, more often than not, probably can be repaired here without sending it back to Bulgaria. I mean, you've had a lot of experience yourself on repairing valve amplifiers. But the whole exercise can just get very, very expensive at the end of the day. And this is quite concerning. Anyway, Rob, I must shoot off now. Hope you're going to have a good day there. And it is disappointing, I think, with the ACOM. What I find particularly disappointing is the fact that it's got to be sent back. That, that it can't be done in-house. If that was a KPA 500, I'm sure you'd delve into it. You'd email Ellicraft and you'd get it up and running in no time. And of course, if it was the Gemini, then you probably could contact where it's made or send it back, and it's all in this country. So I think you've got to look at these things in the future, because it's all very well when they're in warranty, but once out of warranty, you can incur yourself with a lot of expense. And I think it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the EHAM reviews of them. Okay, Rob, have a good day, and I must shoot off now, but enjoyed the chat this morning, and certainly that aerial of yours, when fed as a vertical, was doing extremely well on 40. I noticed you were seen by, I presume, a Chinese station, a Bravo Mike 4, coming in at over 10,000 kilometres. That was quite impressive. And I wasn't being seen by quite a number of those DX stations. But then it seemed to even out a little bit during the late evening on 30, I think it was, into the States. But this is the advantage, of course, if you can have a couple of antennas and you can switch them at will, which, of course, you could with the ZS6 eventually make up a switching circuit, so you could switch it between vertical polarization and horizontal polarization. Okay, all the best, Rob, and have a nice day there. G3 RCE, G3 TKN.
G3 TKN, G3 RCE. Okay, Vince, all okay. I've dropped back a bit now on Hat Green. And about the S7 at the moment, it's still producing a nice big trace on the screen, but I think things are changing a bit now. Conditions are changing a bit. Yes, okay, about that Chinese station, yes, I noticed that. I noticed that when I looked at what I was receiving, I did copy a VK. I'm not sure whether you, how good your reception was, but we're both using the same radio, so that, so it's good for a comparison, even on reception, what you're seeing against what I'm seeing, and relative strengths and what have you. Yes, okay, about the 600S, well, I think it's quite possible, it depends what's got to be done, I think, from what I can gather, if ACOM won't supply them with components, so if they've identified a component, the thing has to be sent back to the factory, and it's not that big, so it has to go back to Bulgaria. I should think apparently there haven't been any fails since the first one, and I'm sure they're quite accurate about that. They're quite surprised. So Richard from sales was quite surprised. Well, that's the first one, and I think, and of course, it is their first solid-state amplifier. But there's always, with anything, as you said, there's always, you can't guarantee that, whatever the design is, that a component might fail, and you just cannot tell. I don't know what the warranty is. It's probably 2 years. It's almost certainly 2 years, I would think, for ACOM. I haven't got the. I'll have to look at the bill, wherever it is floating around. It's probably in the box up there at Martin's. Anyway, looking back through the notes, ATUs and things, I think Chris has got quite a good setup if he only used it, with his big pulse amplifier. Almost in a building, isn't it? Underneath the antenna, it's down the garden, but it's well protected from the weather, and I'm sure you can make up boxes and things, double insulated boxes, even if the thing isn't in a big weatherproof box. So maybe, it's been quite a success story, that big Palstar HF Auto. Everybody seems to be very pleased with it, looking at the EHAM reviews, and you think of the number of people that are using it compared to the number of reviews you got, because a lot of people don't bother to put reviews up there. Anyway, yes, the ACOM one, the ACOM valve amplifiers are really a work of art. The 1010, the 1000, they're almost foolproof, and I used to think of the ACOM 1000 as an art form, almost like an art form, beautiful thing, big and beautifully made inside, and the design is spot on, So, I think the same with the 600S, it's just a bit of bad luck, probably. Right, back to you, Vince, for a quick final. I'm just looking at to S9 on Heck Green at the moment. G3TKN, G3LCE.
Yep, okay, Rob. Yeah, I just tuned off you. The very strong station who's pinning the meter, but I could hear a little bit of side splatter, but it wasn't causing any problem. And I don't know who he is a local, but the meter was going over to 60 over. I don't know whether it was John, maybe, but I think he probably just about knocked the thing out completely at that range. Okay then, Rob, fine, yeah, I'm a little bit high actually. Let me just tweak down to, that's where I was before. That's right, 58.00. Yeah, and funny, talking about amplifiers, but George was saying this morning how pleased he is with the ACOM 1010, I think he's got the smaller one, just at 800 watts, and what he particularly likes about it is the fact that he can pick it up and it's not too heavy, and it's relatively small, because he used to have the big Challenger, the linear UK Challenger, at one time, which needed a crane almost to move, I think. But he's very pleased with that Acom 1010, and we've talked about solid-state amps, and I don't think he's in any rush, but then he doesn't flip from band to band. He's normally on 80 in the mornings and 160 in the evening. So, it's not like he's into contesting or anything where you've got to be going from band to band and you've got to pick no tune. Okay, I'm off now, Robs. Wish you 73s, and catch you a little bit later. Keep in touch on the old email there. And I'm not sure you did say, how many weeks were they talking about before you might get it back, by the way?
Oh, it's about 5 weeks or something like that. It really doesn't matter. It's irrelevant.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, well, let's hope we sort it. But I really don't see why that it should have to be returned. If it's a component, why the hell can't they just simply send the component over, and any good service engineer worth his salt obviously should be able to replace a component. I just don't see the point in saying you're not having the component. It's got to be sent back to us to fix. I mean, providing the service department is well qualified, which I'm sure they are, and they can handle surface mount technology, all that type of thing. To me, it just sounds completely ridiculous, Rob. And they could send, if it's a component, or no matter what it is, send it in a little package, and the job could have been done in-house. Anyway, that's my view on it for what it's worth. People may disagree. G3RC, G3TK.
From G3RCE. Yes, okay, Vince. Yes, well, okay, about what you said about George and the 1010. Well, it's a comparable sort of weight. It's a nice little weight. It's an easy thing to move around. There's the 1010. It's definitely better for Dave up there in Lincoln. But the 600S is probably slightly more awkward, but when it's not in its box, the size of the box is quite big, it's very well protected, the packing and so on. The 600S is not too bad to move around. It's probably very similar to the 101, and perhaps slightly heavier. I don't know. But anyway, about the failures, yes, I would think quite possibly if mine has failed, they would want to look at it. The thing is they're probably going to be quite surprised that the thing has failed. Well, Acom is good. They've got such a good reputation. They're going to want to thoroughly check it out. It's quite possible if it has failed, it is probably the only one that has failed, Vince.
Yeah. Well, we don't know, do we? That's the thing. Is there a forum for that 600S? If there is, get on it and put a note out on the forum, Rob.
Yes, I do belong to the forum. It's not on the 600S as such, but on the Acom forum. I've just never seen anything bad said about the 600S. In fact, I don't think I've even seen any queries about the 600S. There's been the odd thing, but there's not really a lot of activity on it. There's only that one, if you hold like about 2 or 3 EHAM reports back on the 600S, there was a chap who had this heating effect, which is similar to what I was getting, and he opened it up, probably under instruction, from Acom, and just tightened up the heat sinks of, I think, the main FETs, something like that, according to what he did. You can have a look if you're interested at all. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Anyway, bit of a pain in the neck, really. It's a bit irritating. Not that I use it a great deal, but that's the good thing about running the JT mode. If you're running 50 watts or so, you don't need an amplifier at all. Right, 73 Vince. I hope you're feeling well. I must get out in the fresh air and walk down to the castle. I've got to get a couple of things. I must have a bit of a tidy up as well. I've got wires and cables all over the place. But anyway, the CG3000 is holding up. It's showing an SWR of 1.4 to 1 at the moment in the shack. So it's working really well. And it's a good idea to give it a run because I've had it about 18 months and I only used it about twice. So, right. I'll say 73, and I'll be in touch. I've just picked up your emails, had a quick look, very comprehensive, your question and, the reply back from the stock corner chap. 73 events, have a good day, and if you want to do any more checks later on, let me know and what have you. G3TK and G3RCE signing clear.
Yep, okay, Rob, have a good day, and hope everything gets sorted out anyway, and you've got that wire you mentioned, so you're all set to redo the antenna and get everything working as it should be. G3RCE, G3TKM clear now, closing.
Right, cheerio, Vince.
To each other on several occasions. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Well, surprisingly, it was very good, and the immediate thing that I noticed was that the level of treble, the energy in the treble went up progressively as you went through those recordings. So, but as I was saying to Chris, you can drive yourself mad with this stuff. Best just to leave it alone and promise yourself that you won't change anything. You're about 5x5 to 5x7 at the moment, Seth. So let's quickly put it over to Chris and see if he got anything from you, maybe on WebSDR. G0UBI and the group G4BIM.
Okay, you really have to change that U feature. If you just sharpen the bottom part of it, it will turn itself into a D. No problem. Very good morning to you, Seth. I am picking you up, but only via the WebSDR at Hackgreen. But even into that, you weren't particularly strong anyway. But good morning to you anyway. My name is Chris, as you probably know, and I'm located in London, approximately, 3 or 4 miles north of where the station is, Belfast is more than that. If that means anything to you. Yeah. I've actually been recording our QSOs, because the WebSDR has its own record facility, and I always make a recording of my QSO because I always listen back to my audio and compare it to the person that I was speaking to, because I think that's a good representation, because of course coming over the air, you know how you heard that person. Audio recorded in the same way, you can gauge what's going on, because if you do your own adjustments at home.
Whiskey 1 USN, he was on yesterday, and I think if memory reminds you, we also heard Howard as well, but that didn't quite work out. T0, okay, Mike 0 Zulu Alpha Echo.
Mike 0 Zulu Alpha Echo from D0, okay, hey, yeah, good morning, Henry. You're a good signal direct with me at the moment, 5758, touching 59 at times. Even with the heavy rain outside, I can get you quite well, so, but it is terrible weather down here at the moment, terrible weather, but never mind. We can't worry about it, can we? We can't do nothing about it, so, yeah, I understand you was on the DXnet with W1 USN yesterday or Saturday. Yeah, I didn't get on at all over the weekend, so I didn't apart from the northern net with on Sunday morning, I did go on that, but nothing DX-wise. But there we go. Okay, Henry, hope you're okay up there. I think you got, what dates do those assault mines? You go tomorrow and Wednesday, did you go off to assault mines from G0 OKA?
G0 okay, Mike 0 Zulu Alpha Echo. Yep, tomorrow and Wednesday are the 2 days on which I try to keep the economy turning, or at least my bit of it. Equally, we have some fun with the new students, so it'll be all about magnetism this time. SDIL, for those who are interested in that sort of stuff. Makes their eyes glaze over quicker than a rum. 20 Mike 00 Alpha Echo.
Mike 00 Alpha Echo, Bronte 0, okay, eh? Yeah, all copied on that, Henry. What age are the students? Are they sort of, well, not mature, but I suppose are they sort of 15, 16-year-olds, or are they younger? Bronte 0, okay, eh?
Yeah, they're about 18 to 23-year-olds. So they're young apprentices, proper human beings. Hi. These are okay. Mike 00 Alpha Echo.
All copied on that, Henry. Thank you for that. That's, yeah, very, well, well, not a difficult age, but young that age, they know everything, don't they? Or they think they do. And so, but some wish to learn. I hope they're all good to you, and you have no trouble with them. But it must be a difficult age with some of them, Henry. John G0, okay, eh?
G0, okay. Mike 00 Alpha Echo. Well, I wouldn't want to do it again. Other than doing a little bit of quicker. That would be handy, but no, all the other bits.
We're probably too far away. We're about 1 kilometre from the English Channel, so that's probably not making too much of an effect on it, but who knows? It's a black art, G0VBI. Just let me quickly put it over to Seth in case he wants to make any other comments. Do you want to just go ahead for a second, Seth? Go ahead.
What I do when I record it, I remove all possible things that I have this side on bandwidth cases.
Here we are. I don't like driving anymore, I'm afraid. We are fine.
Chepstow. And that's Graham, near St. Austell. Near St. Austell, that's the station. He's roaring through here. He comes on our top band net very often. I don't seem to be modulating very much this morning. I don't know why. But never mind. Obviously you're reading me anyway, that's the main thing. I'm using the old 30830. Okay, thank you for coming on, Alan. To move on. And you, Derek, yes, the M0TQR O'Brien was definitely on. I did see his call sign once. I didn't work him. And of course, G6GLP was also on. I worked him twice, in fact. Tony worked him twice. I wonder if you did, Derek. But my details, before I forget it, are QSO 250, multipliers 95, and the final score 118,750.
118,750. Pretty short.
Okay, so over to you, G3LXJ, G3SNU in the group.
Yeah, right on there, Ken. The 3SNU and Corvina, G3LXJ.
Returning. Okay, Peter, no problem. A very good morning to you, Seth. Apologies for not being able to exchange any words. But yeah, very, very weak with me, unfortunately. You are there, but you're not readable at all directly. I did hear you on the hack stream, as I said, but even on there were times where you almost faded out completely. But anyway, nice to hear you this morning, Seth, and hopefully we can make contact some other time under better conditions. So a very good morning from me, Seth. 73 for now. Yeah, okay, Peter. Yeah, it's all interesting stuff. You know, I've often asked people about this thing because it just seems to be that my transmission is far better than what my reception is, and sometimes I wish that, you know, it would be the other way around, because it's no no good if everyone can hear you, but you're struggling trying to hear everyone back. So I don't know. I suppose the fact that my antenna's so high above the ground and where it is, it's obviously helping with my transmission, but this damn white noise that I'm constantly receiving that's making it difficult to receive other stations is really what's been bugging me. I mean, it's not really that bad. It's not as if I get a horrendous high noise floor. It's normally about an S6. So it's not that. It's just that there's a constant white layer of noise everywhere. And I do attribute that to 9:09 AM. And I think there's about 4 stations almost as strong as 9:09 AM. So if you can imagine all that voltage being induced into my NFED, and my transceiver's got to try and, discard that somewhere, I think the remnants are what I'm describing as this layer of white noise over the signals, even if they're strong. I think up to about a +10, I can't hear it. Anything below that, it's very low, but I have got good hearing. So I can detect it. But hopefully once I've knocked up this broadcast band filter, I'm hoping it will attenuate that even further. I know the ATU's helping attenuate it a little bit, but it's still there. I mean, 4 volts is a lot of signal. It really is a lot of signal. And it's constantly there going into the receiver as well as the other broadcast stations. So it would be nice to get a better receive. If you want, I can actually send you these recordings. They're in MP3 format. The only problem is one of them is about 20 meg long, Peter. I mean, it's not a problem sending it to you if you want to receive a 20 meg file. But let me know if you want, and you can actually hear back the differences when you made the adjustments on your Optimod there. But as I said, had you have changed the settings and not mentioned anything, the difference was so slight, I don't think anyone would have really noticed, to be honest there, Peter. A G4BIM, G0VBI.
G3NMZ, just for a quickie.
Good morning, George. G3NMZ, G4BIM. Let me quickly put it to George, in case George needs to buzz off and just wanted to make some comments, or whether he really wanted to join us. G3NMZ with G0VBI, G4BIM.
No, I don't want to interrupt the proceedings. I had you on for background music for the last half hour or so, after our TSO finished on 53. But a very good morning. I just wanted to say a very good morning to you, Chris, and a very good morning to you, Peter. And I've been listening with great interest, and obviously we have various interests in common, and I endorse all Peter's remarks about your audio, Chris. It's outstanding audio, and the bit of presence that it's getting, the bit of room echo reverberation is being contributed by your room. No additional expense, so very good. But very, very nice. Signals are very much up and down now. You're peaking about 10 over, Chris. Peter peaking about 20 over, but a lot of deep fades down into the murk as the day progresses. So there we are. Just wanted to say hello. I've got to disappear because I've got to go and check on an elderly neighbour at 11.
Charlie, radio check over. This is Mike X-Ray Uniform, Roger over. Charlie, 3 Zulu Charlie, this is Mike X-Ray Uniform, Mike X-Ray Uniform, radio check over.
Uniform, Mike X-ray Uniform, this is 3 Zulu Charlie, over.
3 Zulu Charlie, this is Mike X-ray Uniform, roger, over.
This is 3 Zulu Charlie, good flight, over.
This is Mike X-ray Uniform, roger, out.